The Detroit wind sliced down Ashland Avenue, carrying a sharp bite that stung the skin. Nia Cole stepped out of the city bus, hoodie drawn low, hands tucked into her sleeves. Her sneakers crunched over broken glass as she walked past the graffiti-tagged brick walls of Crane Fight House. Inside, the sound of gloves smacking pads and grunts of effort echoed across the sweat-soaked mat. Men lined up in front of mirrors, throwing kicks like they were born in cages. A poster near the front desk read, "No mercy, no excuses." A few heads turned as she entered. Then came the whispers, the stares, laughter disguised as throat-clearing. She approached the front desk where a guy with a patchy beard and sleeves of cheap tattoos scrolled on his phone. He looked up, barely hiding the smirk. "You lost, sweetheart?" he asked, leaning on his elbow. "I'm here to train," Nia replied, voice even. He gestured to a clipboard without bothering to hand it over. "Fill the form. 1-day trial. After that, you pay or leave." She took the pen, filled in only what mattered, and slid it back. The guy didn't read it. He just pointed to the locker room and yelled, "Coach, another one!" A man in his 40s emerged from behind the heavy bag, broad-shouldered, arms folded like he was carved from concrete. Reed Crane. His gaze swept over Nia like she was furniture in the wrong room. "You trained before?" he asked, no warmth in his tone. "A little," she replied. "Uh-huh." He turned toward the mat and clapped twice. "Circle up. We got fresh meat." As Nia stepped onto the mat, conversation slowed. Every eye tracked her movement like prey entering a predator's den. Fighters in branded gear and custom wraps glanced at each other, mouthing jokes. She adjusted the sleeves of her hoodie and stood at the back. "Warm up. Let's move," Crane barked. The class began. High knees, sprawls, shrimp drills across the floor. Nia copied the movements with quiet precision, her form tighter than most. No one seemed to notice, or maybe they just didn't care. She rotated, through motions like clockwork. Controlled, balanced, efficient. When it came time to pair off, everyone found someone. She remained alone. Crane scanned the room and nodded to the tattooed front desk guy. "Griff, show her the ropes." Griff grinned like he'd won something. He sauntered over, clapped his hands, and said, "Lucky me." They dropped into position. He demonstrated a basic guard pass, then shoved forward with too much force, elbow grinding into her thigh. "Keep your legs open like that, and I'll finish this in seconds," he muttered. Nia gave a slight nod, absorbing the impact, letting him think he had control. When it was her turn, she executed the move with measured grace. Griff stiffened as she cleared his guard cleanly and landed in top position without telegraphing a single shift. "Beginner's luck," he said, resetting. She didn't respond. The drill continued. Each pass revealed more than she intended. Tight grips, fluid transitions, subtle leverage shifts. Nothing flashy. Everything precise. Crane observed from across the room, arms crossed. A slight twitch touched his brow but vanished. The rest of the class went on, indifferent. After an hour, Nia's clothes clung to her skin with sweat, but her breathing never wavered. She stayed quiet, kept to herself. Only one person approached her near the water cooler, Tess, lean, sharp-eyed, with cauliflower ears and a purple belt. "Nice movement," she said, offering a towel. "You trained more than a little." Nia gave a brief nod. Tess looked around before leaning closer. "This place, it's not just rough, it's rigged. Crane has favorites. One of them's Zeke. Don't cross him." Nia tilted her head. "Slightly. Thanks for the heads up. The locker room buzzed with post-class banter. Nia ignored the comments as she passed, but one voice stuck out. "Yo, Griff!" someone called out. "She tap you, or did you just faint from her shampoo?" Laughter roared. Griff didn't answer. That night, back in her apartment, Nia sat cross-legged. On the floor, lights off, streetlight leaking through the blinds. She opened a small steel box and removed a folded patch, the insignia of Glass Echo, a classified tactical unit. Below it lay a photo, old and creased. Two women in desert fatigues, one smiling, one serious. Identical eyes. Her thumb traced her sister's face. Kira. The one they said didn't survive. The one they told her to forget. But Nia remembered. Every sound, every bullet, every scream. She closed the box, stood, and began moving silently through the motions burned into her body. Transitions, escapes, counters. In the dark, her form was a ghost, visible only to memory. Crane Fight House. Hadn't seen her yet. Not really. But they would. Not because she wanted to prove anything. Because someone in that room was tied to her past, and she had come here for a reason. Rain fell sideways across the parking lot as Nia stepped through the gym's side door before sunrise. The lights were off inside, except for a flicker from the back where Tess was already hitting the bag in silence. Nia nodded once, wrapped her hands, and stepped onto the mat. No small talk, just work. By the time the other students arrived, Nia had already drilled half an hour of sprawls and transitions. Coach Crane walked in late, carrying a half-empty coffee and a scowl. His eyes swept the room and paused when they landed on her. He didn't smile. "Sparring rounds. Let's see what you've learned," he said. Pairs formed quickly. Nia stood, waiting. No one came toward her. Not until Crane pointed to a heavy-set man rolling his shoulders nearby. "Jace, she's yours." Jace smirked, cracking his knuckles. "Don't blink, princess." They bumped fists and dropped into stance. He shot fast, clumsy but heavy. His shoulder slammed into her ribs. She absorbed the impact, twisted, and locked her knee across his hip, sweeping him off balance with clean leverage. He thudded onto the mat. He blinked up at her, stunned. "Again," he grunted. They reset. He came harder this time. Wild. She adjusted her base, slipped behind, and took his back with quiet control. Her hooks sank deep before his mind caught up. She didn't finish the choke, just held it long enough to prove the point. He tapped. Loudly, Crane said nothing, but Zeke saw everything from across the cage. Later, as class ended, the fighters gathered, near the lockers. Zeke leaned against the wall, arms folded, watching Nia tie her shoes. Tattoos crawled up his forearms, disappearing under a sleeveless rash guard that read, "Built to break." "Friday night," he called out. "Me and you. 3-minute round. Let's see if your little magic tricks work under pressure." The gym turned quiet. Then the whispers began again. "You serious?" one guy muttered. "He's gonna wreck her." "Hope she shows," said another. Nia didn't flinch. She stood up and walked to the edge of the mat. Her reply was calm. "I'll be here." Zeke's grin widened like he already counted her as a win. "Don't be late," he said, walking off. The next day, flyers appeared taped to the walls. A cartoon sketch of Zeke towering over a faceless figure with braids. Words in block letters. Friday Throwdown. Zeke versus the tourist. Nia passed one without reaction, but she noticed Tess tear one down quietly when no one was watching. That evening, Nia sat alone in her apartment. She opened the metal box again. This time, She pulled out a folded mission sheet. Weathered, blood-stained, corners curled. Operation: Glass Echo. Targets: unknown hostiles. Survivors: 1. The mission had ended in fire. The report claimed her. Sister never made it out, but the intel had never felt right. She stared at the final image in the file, a blurry satellite capture of a figure running from smoke. Time-stamped 3 hours after the evacuation. Location classified. Someone had lied. The following morning, she trained before class. Alone again. She moved sharper now, letting go of restraint. Her limbs flowed between positions with mechanical precision. She knew someone was watching. Tess stood at the doorway, arms crossed, saying nothing. "You were Army," she said after a while. Nia didn't deny it. Tess walked in and leaned against the wall. "You're not here just to roll." Nia met her eyes. "No." Tess nodded once. "Zeke fights dirty. Knee bars, shoulder cranks, doesn't tap unless bone's breaking." Nia adjusted the tape on her wrist. "I know. You should skip it. Don't give them what they want." "This is what I want," Tess sighed. "Your call. But for what it's worth, he doesn't scare everyone." That night, Nia couldn't sleep. She ran stairs until her legs burned, then shadow drilled, until dawn. Her body was bruised, sore, steady. By Thursday, the gym buzzed like a crowd before a show. Every time she entered, conversations stopped. Phone cameras tilted toward her when she wasn't looking. Someone posted a meme of her online. Another flyer appeared with her face edited onto a cartoon superhero, Black Widow of Crane. She ignored it all. After class, Griff cornered her near. "The lockers! Heard Zeke's dropping you in round 1, he sneered. She zipped her bag and said nothing. "You ain't even from here," he added. "Why bother?" Her response was quiet but direct. "Because someone here knows things they shouldn't." Griff blinked. She walked past him without waiting for a reaction. That night, she received a message from an unknown number. Just a link. A surveillance image. Her sister, alive, wearing civilian clothes in what looked like a dusty Middle Eastern market. Dated 1 year after the mission ended. Nia's blood went cold. Attached was a single sentence. She never left. Someone was tracking her. Someone wanted her to come forward. Friday's match was no longer just a fight. It was a signal, a trap, or an invitation. Either way, she planned to answer. The parking lot pulsed with chatter long before sunset. Phones lit up the entrance. Folding chairs formed makeshift rows outside the gym's glass wall. Inside, mats were scrubbed, ropes pushed back, and a strip of black tape marked the center. The air smelled of tape glue, sweat, and anticipation. Crane wore a smug grin as he greeted every newcomer like a host at a private fight club. His black t-shirt read, "Built in Blood," across the chest. Behind him stood Zeke, jaw tight, shoulders bare, pacing like a pit bull off leash. "Don't blink," he muttered to a friend who handed him water. "She's done before the timer hits 2. Someone laughed. Another pulled out a tripod. Near the lockers, Nia laced her shoes without urgency. Her gear was plain. No patches, no logos, just a fitted black rash guard and gray shorts. Her hair was tied into a tight knot, every strand locked into place. Her eyes stayed low, locked on her fingers, looping tape without tremble. Tess entered and leaned against the wall. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "There's no ref. This isn't a match. It's bait." Nia nodded slightly, adjusting her wrist wrap. That's what I'm here for. You've got nothing to prove to these people. I'm not here for them. At exactly 7:59, Crane clapped twice, silencing the room. Everybody gather. Round, he called. Time for a lesson in pressure. The crowd circled the mat. Phones were lifted. Zeke stood at the edge, bouncing on his toes, gaze locked on the entrance. When Nia emerged from the hallway, silence gripped the room. She walked steadily, each step deliberate, ignoring every stare. Crane raised his arms theatrically. Ladies and gentlemen, you asked, we delivered. Tonight, the undefeated Zeke Devaney, 5-time regional finisher. Faces. Well, she needs no introduction anymore. The audience chuckled. A few murmured. She's got heart, someone said. Yeah, but that's not gonna save her ribs, another replied. Zeke stepped forward. He raised his arms, turned to the crowd, then cracked his neck side to side. Nia took her place opposite him. Her feet squared, posture relaxed. She didn't twitch, didn't blink. Crane positioned himself between them, speaking loud enough to be heard, but his tone was dry. 1 round, no time cap. Tap or sleep. Zeke extended his hand slowly, with a smirk. Hope your insurance covers this. Nia shook it briefly, then dropped into stance. Crane stepped back. Go. Zeke didn't wait. He rushed forward, knees pumping, shoulder aimed at her core. Nia shifted, half-step left, pivot, sprawl. Zeke's momentum crashed into nothing. She slipped behind, arm hooking his neck before he could recover. 30. Transition was silent. She torqued her hips, locked her legs around his shoulder and neck, and tightened. A triangle choke. Seamless. His hands clawed at her shin. His body thrashed once, then twice. Then he tapped. 14 seconds. The gym fell mute. Zeke rolled onto his back, gasping, clutching his throat. Crane froze. The crowd stood still. For a breathless moment, no one moved. No one spoke. Then the whispers exploded. What just happened? She barely touched him. Was that even real? Zeke scrambled upright, red-faced, veins bulging. Again, he snapped, voice cracking. She got lucky. Reset the clock. Crane hesitated, then nodded slowly. All right, let's see if lightning strikes twice. Nia didn't flinch. She stepped back to her corner, expression unchanged. Zeke adjusted his stance. This time, no cockiness, no flair, just fists raised, eyes locked. Go! He jabbed once, testing her guard. She didn't react. He feinted low, then lunged. She turned her hip, absorbed the blow, hooked his arm, pivoted under, and swept him, off his base. They hit the ground. She transitioned to mount, locked his wrist, and shifted her weight in a clean arc. Her legs clamped over his shoulder. Arm bar. He screamed and tapped. 11 seconds. Gasps echoed. Phones shook as people scrambled to replay what they'd just seen. Crane's jaw clenched. His arms dropped to his sides. Zeke sat on the mat, panting, eyes wide and hollow. She cheated, he growled, voice rising. That was staged. Crane stepped forward, grabbing Zeke by the arm. Let it go! But the crowd wasn't buying it. She outclassed him. That wasn't luck. She's trained. Way trained. In the corner, Tess recorded quietly. Crane forced a smile. 2 flukes. Let's give them 1 more for the crowd. No, Nia said clearly. Her voice cut the air. Twice was the deal. She turned, walked off the mat, and grabbed her a bag. Phones buzzed as clips spread. In the locker room, she unwrapped her hands and checked her phone. A new message blinked. People are watching. Be ready. An image loaded. A face. Kira. Clearer this time, sitting in the back of a market truck, surrounded by crates, wearing a scarf over half her face. Below the photo, location confirmed. 48 hours. Bring no one. Naya stared at the screen, heart pounding but steady. She exhaled slowly. Behind her, a soft knock tapped the locker room door. Tess stepped inside. "That wasn't just jujitsu," she said. "No, it wasn't. You know what this means now, right?" "Yes. Whoever's sending those messages, they're not random," Nia nodded, pocketing her phone. "They want you to follow." Nia stood and zipped her bag. "I plan to." Outside, the gym buzzed. Like a hornet's nest. Zeke had vanished. Crane spoke in rushed tones to a group near the cage. Tess stayed quiet, watching her walk out the door. Nia didn't look back. She didn't need to. Everyone inside had already seen what she came to show. Now the real work would begin. 2 days later, a dust trail wound through the Nevada plains, cutting toward a crumbling compound that didn't appear on any map. Nia's rental car rolled to a stop behind a jagged ridge. The sun hovered low, casting long shadows across the sand-swept buildings. She killed the engine and stepped out, boots crunching against gravel. No guards, no movement, just silence broken by the wind. The structure ahead leaned into the earth, wrapped in rusted fencing and old satellite dishes. She scanned for tripwires, lenses, motion sensors. Half hidden under the dirt, the signs were subtle but unmistakable. Whoever set this up wanted to be found, but only by someone who knew what to look for. Nia slipped through a breach in the fence and crossed the yard. Her breath stayed even, her steps deliberate. Inside, the scent of metal and dust mixed with something older. Memory, maybe. The corridor was narrow, lit by weak emergency lights. Faded posters lined the walls, military insignias, torn mission, charts, photographs with faces scratched out. At the end stood a steel door, slightly ajar. She pushed it open and stepped into a room colder than the desert outside. A long table sat in the middle. A file folder rested on it. Behind the table, a man waited. Tall, silver-haired, posture too perfect to be casual. "Colonel Avery," she said without emotion. "I was wondering how long it would take you." His voice was smooth, aged with experience, and sharp enough to cut bone. "You sent the pictures." He didn't answer, just nodded toward the chair opposite him. She remained standing. "She's alive," Nia said flatly. "She's been alive, working, until she went dark 6 weeks ago. You knew this whole time." "I protected what I could." Nia took a slow step forward. "You faked her death. You erased her records. And now you're calling me in because you lost control." "She chose to disappear," Avery replied. "But someone else found her. A group outside official channels. They operate in shadows we once controlled." Nia narrowed her eyes. "Why me?" "Because she won't come back for anyone else." He slid a black USB drive across the table. "Coordinates, last signal, entry routes. You'll have limited time. They don't stay in one place." Nia didn't move. "You knew what would happen when you sent that video viral," Avery continued. "You made noise. That noise got their attention. We need you to use that now." "I didn't do it for you." "No," he said. "You did. It for her." Nia picked up the drive without another word and turned to leave. As she reached the exit, Avery called out, "This isn't redemption. It's a debt." She didn't answer. Outside, the sun had dipped below the horizon, She walked back to her car, slipped into the seat, and stared at the horizon. Her fingers clutched the drive like a detonator. Back in Detroit, Tess checked the gym security footage. The night after Nia vanished, Zeke returned. He tore the posters from the wall, kicked over the heavy bag, and stormed out. Crane hadn't been seen in days. Word was spreading. Forums, podcasts, fight groups. They all asked the same question. Who was Nia Cole? The answer came piece by piece. A news blog unearthed a redacted report with a code name matching the symbol on her wrist wrap. Spectators pieced together military footage. Someone leaked training clips from an unnamed government program. Her movements matched frame by frame. Then came the whistleblower post. A man claiming to be ex-Special Operations wrote a long thread. Glass Echo wasn't just about combat. It was about obedience. The ones who survived weren't just soldiers. They were ghosts. One of them was called Spectre. They say she walked through fire and came out colder. The thread went viral overnight. By morning, Nia's old photo, the one of her and Kira smiling in uniform, circulated everywhere. Some called her a hero, others a weapon. She didn't care. Miles from the nearest city, Nia sat in a makeshift motel room, spreading maps across the bed. Coordinates matched to satellite data. She packed her bag with quiet efficiency. First aid, rations, ammunition. One photo, creased, worn, folded to show only Kira's smile. She stood at the window, watching dawn bleed across the landscape. Behind her, the phone vibrated once. Message received. She's still alive, but not for long. Nia picked up her gear, checked her weapon, and locked the door behind her. The time for hiding was over. Now it was her move.